This is National Chess Master All Rats at chess.com, continuing my video series on the correspondence team match played between my video lessons group and the team CARPE DIEM. This was played on board 143. Our man is Joe Paul 44, high 1600 rating versus Doctice, mid 1500. And let's have a look at these two games they played. Okay, the game starts out perfectly logical for both sides, but it's going to change here, and we'll see when we get there. This is the Berlin defense to the Ruy Lopez. And it's safe to say that black is comfortably equalized, and white regains his pawn. Kind of looks a little bit like a Petrov defense, a Russian game with colors reversed. But white starts going on, totally takes the wrong path here. What does white need to do? Well, finish his development. This entire queen side is not budged, and for the most part, it's going to sit there. And because white adopts a bad strategy. I don't understand his next move, c3. Takes away a good square for the knight. The knight would have fit well there. If you're trying to keep black out of d4, and I don't know why, black doesn't really want to go to d4. If with the queen, the knight will just kick her right out of there, right? You know, white could play d4 on his own or develop a piece, bishop e3. c3 doesn't make sense, so this gives black a chance to make a developing move. And now white makes another puzzling move. You know, he's not developing his queen side. He could have had the knight and the bishop out, but he has neither. Now he's opened up a diagonal right at his king. Not something black can really exploit right now, but that doesn't mean black won't. He shut his dark squared bishop in a little bit, taking its mobility away. Anyway, now this might or might not have been the best move, but it does lure white into making a weakness in this position. Logically, you want to get some development going, but could this pawn become a target? Well, right now it's guarded by a queen and a knight, but it lures white into weakening his position further. This is just a bad move. White's development is not complete, and black is going to be able to exploit the weaknesses in the white king side shortly. Now, there's a rule: if you're trying to grab space with your pawns, as long as you can do it in harmony with your pieces, you're fine. If you just run pawns up too early, you can run into trouble because you have no development to back them up, and all the weaknesses you create will come back and bite you quick. And that's pretty much what happens here. So black chooses to come all the way back to c8, figuring that bishop will live to fight again another day. Okay, now white makes another puzzling move. Black hasn't gone to d5 or to e6, maybe to get to d5. White take e6 away from him. Now white's opened up a new diagonal towards his king. All of a sudden, there's these two dangerous diagonals, and still white has not developed his queen side. I mean, we're at move 11, and he started on this path at move 8, 9, 10, 11. He could have had his knight out, his bishop out, got his queen off the back rank, and put this rook on e1 by now. Instead, white's starting to get a bad game. And now white makes another bad move. There's a rule by Aaron Nimzovich, which I quote often in my videos. Don't make exchanges that develop your opponent's pieces. Let him make exchanges that develop yours. Okay, white's attacking this knight. Why not reinforce it with a bishop? That develops the bishop, and if black takes, there's no telling what black will do. We don't know, but then you can just simply take back with your bishop, and the bishop's got is much better posted on e5 than it is on c1, and black still has to stop and develop his pieces on c8 and d8. Okay, so this just lets white redevelop his bishop. Now black's getting ready for moves like c5 at some point to get this bishop into play to start pressuring these light squares, which white has no defense for. White has parted with his light squared bishop right out of the opening, and then exposed his king to pressure. Black already has the better game. So once again, white ignores his development. What's he trying to do? Take c5 away from black? Well, black can still play it anyways anytime he wants. It's probably the first move I'd look at. But black finds a good move. He just simply gets his rook on on the open file, figuring that he'll be able to use it first, because white still has not developed his queen side. And now white does develop something on the queen side, but he puts it where it can't, a piece where it can't move. Well, it can move to a3, but it has no influence down this diagonal yet. And again, with white not having any development, this bishop is a non-factor on b2. Black can still play c5. White can't play c4 necessarily without giving up a pawn. Okay, so let's move on. Now black seizes this diagonal that white has so generously opened up. And as I was pointing out earlier, this bishop could have been on this diagonal if he had developed the bishop. Even if there was an exchange on e5, white would have the bishop on this diagonal, and black wouldn't. Okay? So this comes from just not understanding the rule of exchanging. There's another rule. If you take, it's a mistake. So think about that when you trade pieces. Are you developing your opponent's pieces? Give him a chance to develop yours. So white's really getting a bad game here. And black is threatening moves like queen h4. So white starts to overprotect h2. But black just comes in there anyway to h4. And the only thing missing from the party is this rook for black. White still needs to get these guys into play, and he immediately throws the game away. His back rank is weak. It's weak because his knight hasn't developed. So white plays queen f3, and I'll let you pause the video and find the continuation for black. Okay, you've resumed. Did you find the win? It's a forced mate in 2 for black. So if I say it's a forced mate in 2, start with a check. Okay. How does white get out of check? Well, he can play rook f1. That unprotects h2. And queen takes h2 would be mate. Or he can bring his king up to g2. And queen takes h2 is also checkmate. So white was his own worst enemy here. Let's have a look at the other game. Flip the board. Wonder what move it will put it on. It's supposed to put it on move 1. That's the wrong game. Let me bring it up here. No, it's the wrong game. Wait 1 second. I'll have it here. There we go. Okay, cancel. There we go. Will it start at move 1 like it's supposed to? Yes, it did. Wonderful. Okay. Now, this is the Tarrasch defense, so the queen's gambit declined. And it's perfectly good opening for black. And with the resources in correspondence chess available, you can get a fine position with it. It usually involves black accepting an isolated queen pawn. The normal move is to take here. But black gets a lot of active play for it. But black opts for a gambit. And I don't think white handled it the best way. The best way, I think, is queen takes d4. Now, we don't know what black is going to do. You'd have to look this up to see and look at the various choices. But the point being that the way white plays it, he gives black a tempo to develop a piece, and then he takes here. And had white play queen takes d4 directly, and this position had been reached, this bishop would be back on this square, and white doesn't mind a queen exchange. Black has no development to try to exploit anything in the white position, so white would just be a pawn up. But anyway, since the queens aren't going to come off, the white queens can become a target, and black will get some active play here. And now here I think white overreacted. The most logical move is to put the queen on c2, and she's pretty safe there. This knight would have to go back just to be able to come in and attack it, and that gives white a tempo to go develop something, and everything should be fine for white. But white brings the queen back to d1. Whoops, hit the wrong button. White puts the queen back on d1, and now black has a nice lead in development. So black is close to pretty much has compensation for the pawn now. A pawn loss requires 3 tempos for equality. And black has that. He has 2 extra minor pieces developed. He's ready to castle. White is a move away from threatening 2 moves away from castling. I mean, threatening to castle. He's got to move one of his pawns so the bishop can come out so that you can then castle. Okay, let's go forward. And now white's trying to get castled, but black has a very active game. He opens up the D file, and now with black pretty much fully mobilized, he logically could have played rook c8 or rook e8 with a fine game. Black starts going for the jugular right now, and now black is threatening to regain his pawn, and white actually gives it back. And now he's going to stand a little worse because he's behind in development. But maybe white thought he saw something here, and we'll see it in a moment. Black is going to play a surprise move here. The first move I would expect is knight a4. It's the only way to save the knight. However, black has a surprise move, and we're going to give Doctice credit for finding it. It's really a terrific move, and it should have won the game, I think, for black. Simply because white's a little discombobulated here. The only move is now to play king f1, and black will just save his knight, tempo the queen, and the fact that this rook is out of play will give black a very nice game, and he can play it for the win. Instead, white accepts the sacrifice, and this is a huge mistake. And I'll show you what black does. He does this check, but there's better. The simple winning move is queen takes d3, and white can give this up. There's basically no move for white. The threat is rook e8 check, and let's burn a move for white so we can understand it. Okay, check. Now, the only legal move to get out of check is either put the bishop here and drop the queen immediately, or put the knight here. And now the only legal move is to take the rook, and then white loses his queen. So that's how serious the black threat is in this position. Naturally, white won't play a4, but I play that so that you can see what's being threatened rather than me just drawing arrows and stuff. So what can white do? Well, try knight e5 right now. But black just follows up with rook e8, and suddenly white's got problems. g2 is under fire. Let's go ahead and take this and see what happens. Okay, now rook takes, check. And suddenly white's slightly busted, because after bishop takes, this queen takes, and black has a rook. Black has a queen for a rook and a minor piece, not to mention a pawn in the bank. Black will win this. So black misses his best move. Let's back it up. The move he plays, wait, went too far. There we go. He played rook e8, and now white does need to get this move in, and black is still for choice, but white blunders again and puts his king here, and now comes another check, and here I think black has a real simple routine win with knight takes. Even though he's down a piece, this king is just too exposed. For instance, queen takes. There's this move threatening all kinds of trouble, discoveries, right? And if king takes, there's this powerful move, rook to the 7th rank. White's ahead a piece, but his king is hopefully exposed, and there's all kinds of threats here. Queen f6 or rook c8. I don't think white survives this, but I'll leave this to the players to analyze it out. But what black does is it's reasonably okay. It makes it a fight. He takes on f2, and now black is trying to get some material back. He's still threatening the check for what it's worth. How's white going to respond? Well, white plays that knight e5 move I was talking about earlier, and this does put his bishop loose, but White has a plan. He wants to play queen takes f2 and come back and collect this. And here, I'll show you. Okay, takes, check. And now White has a twin threat here. The twin threat is to take the bishop and give a knight fork. So this is what White has prepared. But Black is wise. He takes here, getting rid of that threat. And now he takes on g2. And the net result is White's up the exchange, and the Black attack has kind of run out. This knight's not really helping in the attack, and the bishop can get back into play, but it's just not enough. And Black is going to succumb here. He stops and saves his pawn, but that allows White to liquidate a little bit, and Black's running out of pieces to attack with. And now White makes a twin threat, threatening to trade queens and to grab a pawn. So here goes Black's attacking force, and White's just up the exchange, and it's pretty much a routine win now. It just brings his king up. Getting a pawn doesn't really help. Now here I think White missed a good move. I think rook here. Yeah, I think rook a2. Let's see. Knight f3 check. King here. And then the bishop has to guard the knight, so the bishop's going backward. Well, you could take this bishop off, but I don't know. I think what White plays is fine. I was just thinking rook a2 was a better move. But anyway, we'll just get through it. He goes and attacks a pawn. Yeah, now he does it. Okay, so here we have the same thing. Now he can come back. And look, the poor bishop has to go back to h1. So Black's kind of stuck here. His pieces that went off to the king's side are just tangled up. And now he plays rook here. Yeah, knight g5, and now the bishop is lost. So I was wrong that White missed a better move. I thought he could do it a move earlier, but the way he did it was fine. And at this point, Black realizes he's a rook down, and the two pawns he has aren't compensation, and another pawn is going to go, so Black resigned. But Black could have won this game, and he didn't. How much time did he spend? I think he spent some time on it. Just going to have to keep working, Black. You're doing fine. Knight d3 check was a fine move. You just didn't find the rest of the follow-up. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. I'm still having trouble uploading videos to YouTube. I'm not sure what the problem is. I'm going to try to solve it so we get these games seen. And there have been some more results in, so I still have more games to make videos, and I've got about 5 of them now that I've made that I haven't uploaded. But I'll get there, okay?